When I look back over the last 5 years, when I started out knowing nothing about coffee and then to the point where I'm at right now, I think I've grown a lot. I've picked up so many different styles and I've watched other baristas pull shots. Throughout the years, I've been able to put together what works best for me. So I have my own little techniques, you know, in how to pull shots. And but that is always changing too, because depending on what machine I'm working on, depending on what environment I'm in, you know, techniques has to change a little bit to fit in. And so my techniques, I think, is always changing and for the better.
To be a really good barista, you have to train a lot. And I've been fortunate to train with some of the best people in the world. And now I would like to share my knowledge and show you my way of producing espressos and cappuccinos. Because what it really all comes down to is training and training. So today I hope that we can show you a little bit. So let's get started. Now your grinder is a very important piece of equipment and you need to know your grinder very well. I hope most baristas get a chance to choose which grinder they're going to use in their coffee shop. Some things to look at when you choose your grinder is what kind of burr set is in there. Is it flat burrs, conical burrs, or a combination of the two? Another thing to look at is, do you make the adjustment in grind size in steps or it is a stepless grinder? Third thing is heat transfer from the motor. How fast the grind burr set is moving will affect the grind quality, and heat can ruin the final taste of the cup. And it's very important, again, let your tasting buds be your judgment in which grinder you choose.
Part of being a great barista is about understanding your grinder, which is actually pretty simple. There's a few key things that you need to know to really understand what the grinder is all about. Keeping your coffee fresh, really understanding how to adjust your grind, keeping it clean, and keeping up on your maintenance.
As far as grinding goes, the one thing that I'm super picky about is over grinding. So I just want to grind enough for whatever the shots that you're going to be pulling. Wasting is a big deal for me. I don't like to waste because I do think about the farmers and the pickers and you know, all that coffee that we're wasting. It just kills me when I see that.
For your technique for distribution, I think you need to experiment with the different methods as well. There's a variety of methods out there and they all reach for the same goal, getting an even distribution. So find the one that works best for you.
As far as dosing, distribution, even though when I'm dosing, I want to make sure that it fits in, all the coffee fits in the portafilter evenly also. So you'll see me moving my portafilter around the fork so that I know that when I'm done dosing, it's all even mound. And then as far as leveling goes, I wanted all the coffee grounds to be evenly along the rim. So it's nice and flat and even on the surface.
So the methodology that I use when I work and usually go back to when I'm having issues or problems are the idea of using cardinal points of north, south, east, and west. And what I tend to do is I distribute the coffee according to those directions. So now I've noticed that my distribution has gone more towards the route of a Scandinavian method where they not only incorporate that cardinal point direction, but they also distribute with the basket using more of a circular motion and then using the cardinal points to distribute the coffee.
Tamping. Tamping is really important to me as far as even tamp, because there's so many times that if I'm not paying attention, my thumb will tend to dive more and I will have a slight slant. And then you can really see it in the shot glasses when you're pouring because you'll have uneven pours.
As a short person, as a short barista, I find that most bars are designed a little bit too high for me. So what I tend to do is I stand on my tippy toes, especially when I tamp, because it helps distribute my weight a lot more evenly and causes less injury for me when I go about doing my work.
Now, since we as a barista can't taste every shot that we make, we have to rely on our visual indicators and seeing how is the pour, how does the creamer look when we're done with our extraction, and how does it look during the extraction. I'm using quite a fresh roasted coffee here, so it does come out with a little bit of bubbles during the extraction. And these are sort of things that you have to know. My advice would be to taste your coffees at different extractions. Notice what the color of the creamer is, and notice when does it taste the best and how does the best espressos at your coffee on your machine look.
Flushing a little bit of water allows the group to heat up and also gets any coffee from the previous shot off of the screen. What you're looking for is a nice reddish brown color. And a great extraction.
So, as baristas, we tend to gravitate more towards being purists, and we'd like it only if people just drink straight espresso or Americanos or maybe black coffee so they could enjoy the coffee only. But the truth is that most beverages you prepare in your cafe are milk-based. So it's important that we understand the milk a little bit. It's best whenever you can, and if you can afford it, to get organic milk from a dairy nearby and be able to maybe go out to the dairy and talk to the farmer a little bit about it. I was fortunate enough to do that recently. I got to go out to a farm and ask the farmer why maybe milk steams up at different ways at different times of the year. And it all has to go back to, again, everything, just the source, what the cows are eating, the ratios compared to pasturage, fresh pasturage to grains that they eat. You're gonna find with milk that is where the cows are fed mostly fresh pasturage, it's going to be really sweet because the sugars from that pasturage are going to show up in the milk. Farmers even break it down sometimes to importing different varietals of grass to feed their cows. So as a barista, it's important to realize that milk is an agricultural product just like the coffee you're using, so it's important to know your milk. So let's steam some milk.
So steaming milk can be one of the most simple things to do, and yet people find it very hard to pick up sometimes. And what I tell them is, one, to not really move your hands or the pitcher a lot and just keep things really stable. And there's a few points that you need to keep in mind when you're steaming milk, and besides keeping it stable is just to find your sweet spot and just keeping it there until you're done steaming milk.
Steaming milk, what I usually focus on is not too much foam. And you can really get a lot of foam, especially with like non-fat. And so I really focus on steaming and keeping an eye on it, because a lot of time when you're working on bar, you're constantly having to address questions or talking to customers and reading them and stuff. And I just know that when I'm steaming milk, I still need to keep an eye on that even though I'm talking. So that's really important to me, and also it's just, in order to pour really nice latte art, you have to have really nice milk. So my goal is always to get really nice, velvety, silky, shiny milk.
So now we're going to steam some milk, and obviously this is a big component in drinks like lattes and cappuccinos. So it's important that this tastes good, just like your shots of espresso taste good. So you always want to start with fresh, cold milk, a nice clean pitcher. And for each drink, you want to steam a fresh pitcher of milk. You never want to re-steam your milk, because you do make chemical changes in the steaming process. You also want to have a clean steam wand. So before every pitcher, you want to flush out your steam wand. Give it a good wipe down. You want to have a whirlpool going in your milk. You want to introduce a little bit of air, having a hissing kind of popcorny sound until it feels warm. Then you submerge the steam wand until it's about 145 or just warm, just too hot to the touch. Wipe your wand right after, purge it out, and you have a perfect pitcher of milk ready to make your drink.